Time now for the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mac, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.
The Redbird Report podcast on 101 ESPN. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Brad Thompson is with me. Brad Thompson will be on the game tonight as the Cardinals take on the Nationals in Game 2 of their 4-game series. And the Cardinals had been rolling prior to being shut out yesterday. Really a clunker, 6-0. But there's a ton of things to get into from the last time that we spoke, Brad. And as always, it's great to visit with you, and I hope you're doing well.
You're doing great, man. Doing great. Look, you are going to run into those games every once in a while, right? You're going to have those clunkers where you've got a veteran pitcher that just carves you up. That was the case yesterday with Anibal Sanchez going out there, just not missing any spots, and the Cardinals couldn't get anything rolling. But the Birds still got a 7.5-game lead in the division, man. Life is good right now.
Life is good. And so let's start with the return of Jack Flaherty. So Flaherty was in trouble for the better part of his 5 innings, but he was able to get out of it. At one point, he strikes out 3 in a row, winds up striking out 6. I look at this as a positive. Number one, hopefully he wakes up today, he's feeling great, and maybe it's just the normal soreness that you have, and there's no ill effects from the start. Number 2, you get him back. That's a jolt. Number 3, he showed you what, to me, what the staff does not have, generally speaking, which is swing and miss stuff. And when you get into postseason play, having a guy like that is huge. And so I take away a lot of positives from the game yesterday, even though it was a clunker, but that was the positive that I took away.
Totally agree. And you don't even have to dig into the numbers if you just watched him. Eyeball test told you that Jack Flaherty was better than we've seen him, since the first half of last year. And I think a lot of people forget really how good Jack was in the first half of 2021 before he ended up getting hurt. I believe it was May 31st in LA. He had the oblique issue. He was putting up some numbers. I mean, he was 9-2, good ERA, everything was good, and then injury derailed his season, tried to come back, obviously tried to come back this year, and it didn't work. But the arm angle, and that's something that you and I talked about a lot here over the last year as he's come back and forth. It was dropping with the shoulder issue. It just didn't look right, and it looked like he was laboring last year when he came back at the end of the year, and this year when he came back for his limited 3 starts. It just looked like everything was a chore. It didn't look like a chore yesterday. The ball was coming out of his hand well. He hit up to 97 on the gun. And when he did make a mistake, when I say a mistake, when his arm did drop, he was able to, in the next pitch or the next 2 pitches, be able to get the arm right back up and make adjustments quickly. To me, that tells me that the shoulder is healthy, that he is good to go. I think you hit on a really key spot. What does he feel like today? How does he bounce back? Because his pitches in a big league game, there's going to be a lot more intensity than pitches in a minor league rehab for a guy that's got his track record. But Dan, I thought he looked really good, and honestly, he did. I mean, he had to make some pitches in big spots. Like you mentioned, there was some traffic out there. Even the run that scored. Look, C.J. Abrams hit a, we'll do air quotes, triple on a ball that really should have been a single that Tyler O'Neill, it was an ill-advised dive for that play. Didn't need to go for it. He did, ended up on third. And then it was Lane Thomas who ended up hitting a mistake. It was a 2-strike fastball that he was trying to go in off the plate. Yeah, 0-2. Tried to go in off the plate, missed middle, and defensive swing, a ground rule double down the line. I mean, he could have got out of there without anything against him. So I love what we saw out of Jack Flaherty.
So the corresponding moves with this before the series opener yesterday, the Cardinals, so obviously they activated Jack Flaherty. They optioned Dakota Hudson to AAA and keep him stretched out for a doubleheader coming up, and he'll make a start in one of those 2 games. And then they designated Junior Fernández for assignment. I want to get into that for just a moment because I thought Junior had some great moments this year. I thought he had turned the corner. Remember a few years ago, even pre-pandemic, there was talk like, hey, man, this guy, big arm, he's going to be a closer. And all of a sudden they designated him for assignment. I guess what we learned is that when he was aggressive and could throw strikes, and wow, what a combination. Yeah, that works. And when he's picking and not throwing strikes, it doesn't work. And so the Cardinals had to make a move. I would imagine that may have been an uncomfortable move to an extent because he's a big arm. You know he's going to get picked up by somebody, but it was adios to Junior Fernández.
I think it's always an uncomfortable move when you're taking somebody off your 40-man roster, and especially a guy that has a high octane arm like that. But I mean, that's the price of business. You look at the numbers this year for Junior, very limited time. He only had 13 games with the Cardinals this year, but a good ERA, sub 3. He did walk that tightrope a little bit. I mean, he had traffic. The whip was pretty darn high, but you knew the stuff was there. You're right. Somebody will take a chance on him. But at some point, you have to make moves that are a little bit uncomfortable. So, look, it kind of is what it is for him. He'll step up somewhere. But right now, the Cardinals were focused on what makes their roster the most ideal for the circumstances currently. And it was with him off of it and with Dakota at AAA. And Dan, I got to tell you, I kind of like the move here. I'm not for Dakota. I feel bad for him. I'd like him to have success. I like Dakota. I mean, he's a good dude. But what value was he going to serve you in the bullpen right now?
Yeah.
That's the hard part, because you've got a couple of guys already, Dan, as you know, that are lengthened out. Jake Woodford, I mean, if there's another start that popped up, I'd feel very, very comfortable giving Jake Woodford the ball right now. You've got Andre Palante, who, boy, you want to talk about bad luck in a ball game. Andre Palante got that yesterday, just beating the ball into the ground. He ends up, what was it, a third of an inning and gave up 4. It's not exactly ideal, Dan, but I like this. Keep Dakota stretched out. Hopefully, works through some things, consistency against left-handed batters and whatnot, and then have him ready for the doubleheader. I think it makes your big league pitching staff a little bit better.
So we talk about milestones all the time, and this one kind of flew under the radar, I think, for a lot of people, but Yadier Molina reached 2,098 career starts behind the plate to pass Carlton Fisk, second in Major League history. He will not catch Pudge Rodriguez, number 1, the Hall of Famer, with 2,346. It wasn't lost on me yesterday. We were doing the game, Brad, and he takes a foul ball, a tip, right to the center of his mask. And I every time that happens to him, I think, number 1, he's not going to miss it. I say that on the game. But number 2, the durability to be able to do that, second all time. I mean, there's 22,000, 23,000 people that have played this game, and he's the second most in catchers in terms of getting behind the plate. Just the beating that a player takes behind the plate. I mean, I worked with Tim McCarver so many years, and I remember he would show me his left hand, his catching hand, and it was beat up. I mean, it was fingers going this way, that way, and I just don't think we should underscore the fact that this guy has been back there and taken a beating, and he answers the bell, and that is a responsibility that he has had to this team for many, many years. Now, he's in the latter stages of his career. He left for various reasons this year, but generally speaking, for the nearly 2 decades to be behind the plate and do that, man, oh man, that's just, to me, that's an incredible accomplishment. 2,098 career starts behind the plate, second most all time in the history of baseball.
So we talk about this a lot with him and Adam, and we pair the two together, and rightfully so, because come Thursday, it will be a record-tying outing for the two of them, number 324 for battery mate. So that's going to be special. And we talk about how that will never happen again. You won't see it. You're not going to see two guys that do this again. I really don't think that you're going to see catchers do what Yadier Molina is doing again. Longevity, the stuff that you're talking about, all the beating that you take back there, the financial part of this ball game where guys don't have to take that beating anymore. You get that one contract, maybe you're set for life. Yadier Molina is wired different. I mean, this is a guy and this is a family that has been doing it at such a high level for such a long time. He's got 9 gold gloves, 4 platinum gloves, and he just loves being back there and he loves competing. And especially, Dan, as you know, and we've talked about on the broadcast and we've talked about, off air, this is the time of year. It's September. October is on the way. We're starting to see the bat heat up a little bit for Yadi here recently. You see him behind the plate, and it's just different than, and this is no disrespect to Andrew Kisner, who I really like. Yadi's different behind the plate. He's getting calls that Kisner won't get. He's more quiet. Anything at the bottom of the zone, he gets. He also knows the umpire, so he has those relationships where he's going to get the benefit of the doubt on a call. I love having Yadi a part of this mix right now. This team has something special right now, and Yadi's a big part of it.
Wasn't lost on me yesterday. We had a crowd of 45,679. It was the 21st sellout. Albert Pujols made the final out in the game, and I would venture to say of the 45,679, probably a good 35 to 40 were still remaining in there just to see if Albert can get to the fourth position all-time home run list in Major League Baseball and tie Alex Rodriguez. I thought over the weekend, man, that home run that he hit against the Cubs was a magical moment, clearly. And I was trying to think, and I don't know, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Man, he's had some magical moments this year. I'm just talking specifically this year. I think about his first home run back in St. Louis. I think about the pinch hit grand slam. I think about the 2 home runs in Arizona. I think about his home run at Wrigley with a pitch basically above his head. And then I think about the pinch hit 2-run homer for the Cardinals against the Cubs. It's not only hitting the home runs, they're coming at meaningful times. And that's, I think, been lost on a lot of people. It's like, this is not just a sideshow. This is a guy that's helping you win games. And that should not be overlooked as he's sitting now just one back of A-Rod to become 4th all-time in home runs.
Well, you heard after the game the other day, Nolan Arenado talking to the assembled media that he wants Albert back next year.
I love it.
He said, I don't care if he hits 700, 702. Like, we need him back in the fold. Now, I don't know if that's going to be in the heart of Albert due to the fact that he has basically said, I don't care if I get to 700 or not. That's it. Who knows? We all make different decisions, right, as we wind things down. But he has been a pivotal part of everything they're doing. Certainly, to your point, on the field, and all of those moments that you brought up were huge and game shifting. And you could just tell with the energy, not only in the ballparks. And dude, it's been at Busch Stadium, as you mentioned. I mean, you get goosebumps when the guy comes up to bat, because that's the energy. But you're getting that on the road also. And it's not just Cardinal fans that are traveling. It's whoever. Like, it's baseball fans that respect what this guy has done. There's a different vibe. But what he's doing behind the scenes and helping the younger players and the energy that he provides, when number 5 is on your side, you feel like you got something going. And I was going to ask you this because I felt guilty of this yesterday. And I was thinking about it on my drive home, and I go, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? I was waiting for Goldie and Arenado's at-bats to get over with so I could watch Albert.
Yeah, just get out of the way. I'm
Goldie's going to win the MVP. Arenado's having a monster year. He could win the MVP if Goldie weren't doing Goldie things, and I wanted to see Albert. He's stealing the show.
Well, I said it might have been Jimmy over the weekend. I said, I said this on the air. I said, this is bad when you think that these guys get out because you're happy because then you can watch Albert. That's terrible to say that, but it is fun to watch, man. It is so much fun. There's so much energy in the ballpark. I was asked earlier this year if Albert would get to like 698, 699, do you think he comes back? And I answered the question by saying, no, I don't think he does, because I didn't think there was any chance he'd get there. I didn't think he'd have a legitimate shot at 700. I was dead wrong, because he's improved against right-handed pitching, and now you've opened up this lead where you feel comfortable saying, hey, even if it's a matchup that doesn't really favor Albert because it's a righty, the way he's swinging the bat since the All-Star break against right-handed pitching, no, he's a viable option. So that changes the mindset of it. I'm with you. I don't think he comes back, but I'd love to just say, let's get 700 out of the way so we don't have to worry about it. But that would be a sidebar story to the offseason, and we're jumping way ahead. But if he's at 698, you're 2 away from 700, how do you not think about it? You'd have to.
I know. I totally agree. And I guess when you think about it, really, I mean, what does it mean? It's just two more home runs. All it is a nice round number for everybody.
It's a really big, nice round number, though.
It's a huge round number, but it's still 4th all time. Like, you're still sitting there. At this point, all I could do is take the man, to his word. He said he doesn't want to come back either way. We'll see if that ends up changing. But I know this: it won't diminish anything for me if Albert hits 695, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 700. He's the best player I've ever seen with my own eyes. And that won't change if he ends up hitting the milestone of 700. But I wholeheartedly agree with you that I would love to see that this year down the stretch. I'm so excited. You and I, especially at the end of September, we've got a ton of games together, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to watch this team clinch the division and go on to October. Hopefully, Albert has hit his milestone. This team's just playing their best baseball at the biggest time. We've seen the starting pitching solidify. We're seeing this bullpen really turn in some good outings. Yesterday, again, I mentioned Palante's outing. That was a That was a bit of an outlier from him. James Nail, quick start in his first two batters. Then things got awry a little bit from him. But this bullpen has been really, really good. The lineup is the best in baseball since the All-Star break, and a top 5 lineup basically in every category for the entire season. We're seeing something great right now, and this sprint here, and it really is going to be a sprint, is going to be special.
So I'll wrap it up with this. Jose Quintana goes tonight for the Cardinals, and he's never beaten the Washington Nationals. Hasn't been overly sharp his last couple of starts. What do you, from a pitching perspective, look for with Quintana when you know, hey, this guy looks to be on, he's going to have a good night?
So for me, it's not even necessarily, we talk a lot about pitchers getting ahead. For Quintana, it's not that as much for me. It's getting back into counts, because he's a guy that works the corners, and he's like an aim small, miss small guy. And his first couple of starts that we saw, if he missed just off the plate in, or just off the plate away, or just up above the zone. Here recently, we've seen some of his misses be on the other side, just in the plate, or just in there in the strike zone where guys are able to get to it. So it's an aim small, miss small thing. If his misses are quote unquote good misses, I feel like he's going to have himself a good day. He has the advantage of having a great defense behind him. He can use him, but he's not your prototypical just pour in strikes, see what happens. He's still got to mix it up a little bit. I don't worry about him, especially with this defense behind him. I think he's going to be fine, but I'm sure that he wants to bounce back after a couple, as you mentioned, not his greatest outings.
All right, BT, thanks for doing it. Always fun to talk about Cardinal baseball and history potentially to be made, and we'll see you at the ballpark tonight.
Let's do it again tonight. Let's even this series back up. The Cardinals don't lose 2 games in a row very often, so let's ride.
That is Brad Thompson. I'm Danny Mack, and this is the Redbird Report on 101 ESPN.
You've been listening to the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mack, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.